Hi, everyone. I'm Colleen, and I'm back with another live stream brought to you, of course, by the awesome people over at Princess Dental Staffing. So great to see everyone. So today's topic, we are talking dental assistant interview tips that you need to know. So you've gone through the application process. You finally got called for an interview. And has this happened to you? You've got called for an interview and you go, oh, great. I worked so hard. I finally got that interview. And then it sinks in. Oh, I have an interview. Oh, man. And the nerves start. Has this ever happened to you? I know it's happened to me. I was in human resources for over a decade and conducted, I can't tell you how many interviews. And even I got nervous when I had to interview people, and applicants and whatnot. And, you know, I got to tell you, I mean, you're not the only one, right? There are definitely tons of people out there. And trust me, your interviewers are probably nervous too. So this happens to a lot of people. So take solace in the fact that you are definitely not alone when it comes to the interviewing process. It's very nerve-wracking. But today, we are going to be sharing with you some great tips to help nail that dental assistant interview, okay? So that is the topic that we're bringing you this week. And each week, we're bringing you a new topic that discusses your career in the dental industry every week on Wednesdays. So if you like the content that we're bringing you, be sure to drop us a like. If you don't want to miss out on future streams, be sure to follow and subscribe. Okay, and if you have any questions, of course, drop them below and we will get to them as soon as possible. If we couldn't get to them when this stream was live, we'll definitely answer your questions as quickly as we possibly can, okay? If you want more information on the topics we're bringing you, you can go to princessdentalstaffing.com and check out their blog and read through their blog articles, which are super informative as well, okay? And while you're on there, you can go ahead and search for jobs in your area because Princess Dental Staffing is an online dental job board offering positions in front office, dental hygienists, dentists, and yes, even dental assistants as well. Full-time, part-time, temporary, contract, you name it. So super easy to jump on there and start searching for jobs in your area. Also really, really easy to create a profile and get your information in front of hiring managers and making it searchable as well. So lots of great information on princessdentalstaffing.com. Okay, so let's talk about these tips. Okay, I know that's the main event. That's what you're waiting for, right? So let's talk about these tips. Okay. Firstly, prepare beforehand. This, I cannot stress this enough. Preparation is the key to really nailing, nailing a dental assistant interview. Really, any interview, but we're talking about dental assistants today. So preparation is key. Practice, 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 and be sure to prepare beforehand. Okay, so what things do you want to prepare? Well, for example, you can review the practice or the company that you're interviewing with. You know, for example, who is the main dentist? Okay, do they specialize in a certain type of dentistry? Is this office, brand new and expanding? Are they established and have kind of like a loyal clientele? These are great things to research and kind of great things to research and have that information kind of locked away so that you can prepare for this interview and be able to offer that information during the interview and use it to your advantage, right? Okay. Additionally, you can read reviews on the office or the practice as well. So reading reviews like Yelp or something like that, reading reviews really gives you a good idea of how the practice is run and what you can expect. I always tell my clients, remember, you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. You know, if you get if you get offered this position and you start working with this practice, that's somewhere that you're going to spend, 20, maybe 40 hours a week. Every week until through the foreseeable future, right? You want to make sure it's somewhere that you fit and that you want to spend time there, right? And that it's a good place to spend time in and do your job and earn your money, right? So reading those reviews can really be helpful as well. Reading reviews is also really helpful. So you can actually bring them up in the interview and reference reviews in the interview as well. So for example, have you guys ever gotten that question, why do you want to work here? right? Have you ever had that question in an interview? Why do you want to work here? Well, one great thing that you can bring up are the reviews. Oh, I'm really interested in working here because you've got great patient reviews and you obviously care a lot about patient care. Sorry, I'm fidgeting with my glasses. They're being a little bit difficult right now. But so you can actually bring up, oh, I've read the reviews and it looks like you're really focused on patient care, and it looks like you've got a really loyal clientele, and that's definitely the type of place that I'm interested in working in because I'm very focused on patient care as well. Okay, so those are great things to bring up in an interview. Okay. Have your resume printed out. Okay, so if you are doing an in-person interview, and I know they're not as prominent as they were for the past year. Most of us have been doing, like Zoom or virtual interviews, etc. But as we are moving towards mitigating and hopefully eventually eradicating COVID-19, we may start to see a return to in-person interviews. Okay, and as I understand, there are still a few companies that are conducting in-person interviews. With precautions, masks and that sort of thing. Okay, so if you are doing an in-person interview, make sure that you bring a copy of several copies of your resume with you and available to hand out. Now, generally, they're probably already going to have a copy of your resume there printed out or in front of them, either on a laptop or something like that. But it's always a good idea to bring anyway, just to show that you are prepared. And if you are bringing a printed out copy of your resume, make sure that it's on resume paper. So there is actually resume paper that you can buy, and you can get it like places like, like Home Depot or not Home Depot, sorry, Office Depot is what I meant, Staples, those sorts of places, those sorts of like office places. Or you can also get it online as well. It's just really high grade paper, and it's just really impressive when you hand it over to the interviewer. Hi, LaCarla. How are you? Thanks for joining us today. Okay, so that's number one, be prepared. So I know that was a lot, but I think it's really, really important to talk about all the ways that you can be prepared for the interview. Okay. 2, be ready to be personable. Okay. So, interviews are really important especially in the dental industry and for dental assistants, because, potential employers want to see how personable you are, because that's going to translate on how personable you are with patients, right? How your chairside manner is and how you can connect with people that you just met, right? That's really important in the dental industry. So be ready to be personable, okay? So you want to focus on making your interviewers comfortable. Like I said, they're probably kind of nervous too. Trust me, we get nervous too. Okay, so you want to be personable and you want to be engaging, and just make sure you prepare yourself for that. Okay. So other things. So just a few tips for if you are nervous, because I know it's so nerve-wracking. I completely understand, and it's really hard to kind of fake it until you make it. But just a few tips if you are a little bit more nervous. One thing you can do is always bring the conversation back to what it is that you know. So if you get stuck on a question, or like you don't understand, or maybe you don't have as much, you're not as experienced in that area as you would like to be, or you're just not really sure, you just get kind of stuck and don't know what to say, try to bring the conversation back to something that you do know. Okay, try to steer the conversation as much as possible if you kind of get stuck like that. Okay, so just kind of bring it back to what it is that you do know, so that you can speak a little bit more confidently. The other thing to remember, if you are super nervous, the other thing to remind yourself is that they chose to speak with you. Okay, obviously you did something right in the application process when you submitted your application or your resume or what have you. Okay, you obviously did something well, and they obviously want to speak with you. Okay, so if you're super nervous and just feeling a little bit insecure, just remember they want to talk to you because you've got the skills that they're looking for. Okay. That's for sure. I'm too bad at improv to try to think of it completely on the spot. Yeah, absolutely, Drew. Absolutely. That's why it's always a good idea to practice beforehand, right? And kind of, and I've said this on previous streams before, either record yourself, like on, computer, like your laptop or your phone, tablet, whatever, answering specific questions, or look at yourself in the mirror, or practice with a friend, and just kind of get comfortable answering questions. But even if you have practiced all the big questions, right? Tell us about yourself. Why do you want to work here? What's your greatest strength? What's your greatest weakness? All those sorts of things. Even if you practice all of those major interview questions, a lot of the times they will come up with a question that you weren't prepared for. Okay. And that is nerve wracking. And you can definitely go from completely confident and completely calm to very, very anxious very, very quickly. So the idea here is that you want to try to bring the conversation back to something you do know and that you are prepared to answer. Okay. And the information that you have prepared beforehand. Okay. That's a really great tip to do. All right. Number 3, always be positive in an interview. I cannot stress this enough. Always be positive in the interview. Okay. So it's always good to speak in a positive light. And the reason is because, if you speak negatively about something like, say, your previous boss or the previous place you worked, or, any aspect of your job really whatsoever, any aspect of being a dental assistant, it can put a real damper on the interview and on the conversation, and the interviewers are likely going to associate you with negative comments. And that's exactly what you don't want. So be as positive as possible, even when you're talking about things that are not necessarily that positive. Okay. So for example, if you left or if you're currently trying to leave, or if you have left your last job because under not the best circumstances, always try to, speak in a positive light. So for example, you're leaving your current position because it's just a really kind of toxic environment and you just don't see yourself there anymore. And, the interviewer asks you, okay, so why are you looking to leave your current position? Talk about what you're trying to work towards as opposed to what you're trying to get away from, if that kind of makes sense. So for example, why are you looking to leave this position? Oh, because my boss sucks. No, that's not the answer we want to give. What we want to say instead is, I saw that you had a position open, and after researching your office, I see that you use a lot of the latest technology, and I think that would be a really great career move. I think it would be a really great career move because I'm so interested in learning and using the latest technology in order to improve the oral health of my patients, or something like that. Okay. So always try to paint things in a positive light. There's always a positive spin you can put on everything. So, obstacles, challenges, problems, try to find the silver lining and kind of talk about that. Okay. It wasn't an issue. It was an opportunity. Okay. So try to put things in a positive light. What is the saying again? Something like positivity is contagious. I would much rather have that positivity associated with me. That's for sure. Yeah, absolutely true. Positivity, I'm not sure what the saying is. Is it positivity is contagious? I'm not quite sure. Someone comes up with it, be sure to comment it below. Positivity is contagious. I'm not quite sure, but it is. Positivity is definitely contagious, and it's definitely something that you want associated with you in an interview, right? So, so make sure you find the positive spin and put it on any, issue, obstacle, challenge that you come across. Okay. Number 4, speak to your certifications. Okay. So of course, the interviewers have your resume, and of course they've reviewed it. But you always want to be able to speak about your resume and the information on there, by adding a little bit of extra. Okay. So, for example, again, we've got that dreaded question. Tell us about yourself, right? Well, you have my resume in front of you. Don't you have enough information? Well, no, again, interviews are set up this way because they're testing you on how well you interact with people, how well on your communications, your interpersonal skills, your engagement, and those sorts of things. So be able to speak about yourself and speak to your certifications. Okay. So if they say, tell us about yourself, be sure to, and you're going to go over the resume essentially, right? Because that information isn't going to change. Where you worked is where you worked. Your certifications and your education are your certifications and your education. But what you want to do is you want to give them a little bit more detail. And of course, be sure to highlight your certifications when you are talking about yourself and when you're giving them a little bit more information. Okay. In most cases, the employer will have the necessary certifications listed, but you still want to be able to talk about your certifications and list that information for them. Just again, just to be able to talk about yourself and to prove your communication and interpersonal skills. Okay. And lastly, number five, ask whether the interview is going to be a working interview or traditional interview. Okay. So of course, a traditional interview being you have an interviewer and you, or maybe a couple interviewers, 2 or 3, and they're going to be asking you questions, and it's going to be like a conversation. A working interview is where you actually work and they observe you. So you actually go there, and a lot of the times they're paid. I think most places that you go, they actually have to be paid. And they're not as prevalent anymore, but they are still around. So when you go to schedule the interview, make sure you ask the question, is this a traditional interview? I'm asked questions, or is this going to be a working interview? Just so you know, it takes 2 seconds to ask, and then you have the information, and that way you can avoid, kind of an embarrassing situation where you show up in heels and you were meant to show up in scrubs. Okay, so make sure that you ask that question. Okay. Alrighty, so those are our tips for preparing for your dental assistant interview. So let's go over them one more time. Prepare for the interview beforehand. Make sure you print out your resume on resume paper if you can get your hands on it, okay? Make sure that you do some research on the office or the practice that you're interviewing with, and read some reviews, and just kind of have that information stored away so that you can use it and practice it so that you can use it during the interview, okay? Number 2, be ready to be personable. Again, a lot of the times these interviews are great ways for potential employers to see how well you relate to people and how well you can engage with people that you just met, which is super important in the dental industry. Okay, so be prepared to be very personable and very positive. Okay, speaking of which, leading into number 3, always be positive in the interview. Okay, even if you have to speak about, not so happy situations, be sure to find the positive spin and be able to talk about that. Speak to your certifications. Again, they probably have your resume right there, but you still want to be able to speak about yourself, about your credentials, your certifications, and give them a little bit more detail than is already in the resume, because they've probably already read it again. Okay, and they're looking for you to be able to, like I said, engage and speak well. Okay, and then lastly, make sure you ask whether or not it is a working interview or traditional interview. Drew just came in and said, "Oof, yeah, no, thank you. That would be super awkward." Yeah, super awkward. And again, you can assume that it's a traditional resume or a traditional interview, but again, it just takes 2 seconds to ask. So, and you can find that out quicker, and then you can avoid that kind of situation. Okay, so working interview or traditional. Okay, so those are our tips for really nailing your dental assistant interview. So if you think of anything else, have any questions, comments, be sure to drop them below, and we will get to them as soon as possible. But thanks for spending today with me, everyone. And if you couldn't be here when this stream was live, so glad that you got to watch it later. Okay, we will be back next week with covering another topic about your career in the dental industry. In the meantime, have a great week. Have a great weekend. Continue to stay safe out there, and I will see you soon. Bye, everyone.